The year is 2030. The fiat price of Bitcoin is 500,000 US dollars. What has changed in your life?
That's actually anyway. So I think what would have changed in my life would be, the fulfillment that I've actually done some things. Leaving this world a better place, because that is what I'm looking at. As humans, we should purpose to actually leave the planet better than we found it. And for me, if Bitcoin reaches 500K, that means a lot of families would actually have created, generational wealth, right? So out of what we are doing at Bitcoin Dada, this would actually leave an impact on so many people. So I think my life will just be, I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Shout out to the Orange Manufacturing Group. They helped me with my logo design, and you know that I'll be ordering their premium hardwood sign and lightning keychain. Accessories are curated from a selection of durable traditional materials built to last. Use the Geyser Fund link in the show notes to take advantage of their trust minimal process, or to save 5%, go to omg21btc.com. That's omg21btc.com and use code AAB21Q. Stream started, 5 viewers. So we're going to start soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask a Bitcoiner 21 Questions. My name is Saida Gomez, and today I'm so excited to have Queen Marcel with us to answer 21 questions. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Excited as well. Do you have like a timer for the 21 questions?
I do. It's 10 minutes. The goal is to answer 21 questions in 10 minutes. And it's kind of like, so the whole idea behind it was to be able to answer 21 questions in roughly the time it takes to mine a Bitcoin block. And one person has done it, Flo Montoya. And she, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she does a lot of beautiful artwork in the Bitcoin space. And so I think she was focused on like meeting the challenge, but most people don't do it. So you play it however you want. And if we get zaps today, the zaps will go to you if you answer in under 10 minutes. And if you don't, they'll go to an organization of your choice. I'm guessing it'll probably be Bitcoin Data, but it's completely up to you.
I think I already have one person in mind because I don't think I'll hack it.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then see, that tells us right away that you're probably going to take your time because you already know who you want to give the zaps to.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, so my name is Marcel Lorraine, fondly known as Queen Marcel within the community. I am the founder of Bitcoin Dada. I guess we'll be talking about Bitcoin Dada later on, so I don't think I have to go into that. But yeah, I'm excited to be here with you, Saida, and thank you for actually hosting one of my students. So yeah.
Yeah, Sabina's amazing. Beautiful
Yes.
woman. She's co-founding Tando. Like, you could be very proud of
Mhm.
Bitcoin Data,
I am, definitely.
as you should be. So, before I get to the questions, because we're living through such like historical times, I'm just going to read out
Mhm.
some basic stats. So the current Bitcoin price is 86,249 American dollars. Sats per US dollars is 1,159. And we will start at block height 870,001.
Exciting.
So I'm getting the timer ready for 10 minutes. I will read the first question, then I will start the timer.
Okay. Bring
Ready?
it on. Yep.
Bring it. She said, bring it.
Bring it.
Okay. First question. What's the biggest misconception that new students have about Bitcoin?
Okay, I would say that the first misconception they have is they think that when they purchase Bitcoin, they can become billionaires overnight. And of course, that is not true. People need to understand that Bitcoin is not a get rich quick scheme, but rather a long-term investment in financial sovereignty as well as freedom.
Yep. What would we be surprised to know about you?
Surprised. I don't like chicken. See? See you're
Expecting that. When you started Bitcoin Dada, did you think it would become what it is today?
I would say I had the vision for how I wanted Bitcoin Dada to be, and I saw a lot of potential, like huge potential in creating a strong community, that would focus on empowering the African females and even economies as a whole. So that actually fueled me to push on regardless of what was happening around me.
What makes Kenya such a special place when it comes to mobile tech on the African continent?
Oh, good question. So I think the first thing I would say is for the innovative spirit that we have as Kenyans, as well as the early adoption of mobile tech. And this can be attributed to the young population who are tech savvy, as well as the supportive regulatory framework that we have around mobile technology innovations.
The year is 2030. The fiat price of Bitcoin is 500,000 US dollars. What has changed in your life?
That's actually. Anyway, so I think what would have changed in my life would be, the fulfillment that I've actually done some things, leaving this world a better place, because that is what I'm looking at. As humans, we should purpose to actually leave the planet better than we found it. And for me, if Bitcoin reaches 500K, that means a lot of families would actually have created, generational wealth, right? So out of what we are doing at Bitcoin Dada, this would actually leave an impact on so many people. So I think my life will just be, I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Could the Bitcoin Dada model work outside of Africa?
I don't see why. And the reason as to this is the challenges that we face as Africans are actually faced by a lot of human beings. I don't believe there's a continent that's perfect, right? And of course, we do focus on African women, but the model is the same, education, community building, financial inclusion. So all these things our model can apply to any continent and to any gender. It doesn't necessarily have to be females alone.
So this year, we've seen a new type of market participant enter the arena with Bitcoin ETFs. Will this lead to a fork in the protocol down the line?
Interesting question. So I think the introduction of Bitcoin ETFs definitely signals an interest from the traditional financial market, but I don't think there's a direct correlation to having a fork on the protocol. If you look at the principles of Bitcoin, which is decentralization and immutability, which are strongly embedded in the community, it will require a consensus to actually change the protocol. So for me, even with the new participants, which, might change the market dynamics, I don't necessarily think that it will lead to a direct, change of the Bitcoin protocol. But of course, in future, we might see new proposals, new discussions around where to go next or how we want Bitcoin to operate.
How does it make you feel to see your graduates thriving and succeeding?
First of all, I act like a mother, who is always proud of the steps, whether they're small or big. It's incredibly fulfilling to me. And seeing them thrive and succeed brings, it reminds me of why I started and the need to continue what we're doing, the need to do better for the community and for our continent as well. So I get super proud of my students. It's emotional for me, not just me being Marcel who is succeeding, but also my students.
Yeah. What is Bitcoin Dada?
So we are a non-profit organization that focuses on empowering the African female. And we do this through financial education by leveraging on Bitcoin. I don't think I need to go into the details of why Bitcoin. I think it's pretty much clear for any Bitcoiner to understand. So we're a community of women that is focused on bettering the lives of our community and even our economies as a whole.
Why did it take so long for folks in Tradfi to embrace Bitcoin?
I think it's how Bitcoin works actually challenges the norms of the traditional financial markets, right? With Bitcoin, there is things like decentralization, transparency, inclusivity, and this is actually quite opposite of, the financial markets that we have. So initially, people are really skeptical about it because this is not what they're used to. But I believe over time, Bitcoin has actually been able to prove them wrong. Bitcoin has proved to be more resilient, to be a better asset, than any other asset that we have outside there.
What is your Bitcoin origin story?
So there's a lot of shit casino stories inside there, but I'm going to summarize it. So I stumbled upon Bitcoin when I was doing a gig for a crypto organization. And for me, the concept of decentralized finance made me think twice. We live in a continent that you feel sort of like enslaved, not physically, but mentally, as well as, through your work. You continue working hard, but at the end of the day, you have nothing to show for it. And this is brought about by the high taxations, constant devaluation of our currencies, inflation. So for me, Bitcoin was like, this could be the tool, this could be the way out of this misery.
Why is mentorship important?
Good question. So mentorship is important because after education, there's usually a very huge gap. And I feel this is one of the things that we as Bitcoin educators lack, and more educators should actually adopt mentorship into their programs, because you're leading these people after education, then what next? So you want to give them like a what next scenario. So is it building? Is it development? Is it finding a job in the Bitcoin ecosystem or even in the larger tech space? Finding their foot where they are comfortable, that they can contribute in their own capacity, because people come in as developers, others can come in as creators, like you mentioned, the previous guest on your show. They can come in and contribute as creators. They can come in as policy makers in whatever angle or capacity that they choose. So mentorship actually guides them. And at the end of the day, not only does it guide the students, it also offers them a platform where they can be mentors to the next generation, right? Yeah, so it's very important for me.
Why does Kenya need Bitcoin?
Wow, that's a good question compared. Especially to what is happening right now, but I'll keep it safe. I'll keep myself safe by being safe with what I say. I think, like every African country, we need Bitcoin because, again, it has proved to be an asset where you can store your wealth, ensure that your effort as a person does not go to waste. For the majority of African countries, including Kenya, you can just wake up one day and realize whatever you had saved has gone to zero, right? So Bitcoin offers like an alternative, a secure alternative to what we currently have.
Yeah. Ah, that's time. Already 10 minutes. You did well. Okay, hold on. I unraveled this one, but we didn't read it. Actually, you did really well. One,
How many
2,
questions?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's
Oh,
really good.
wow.
That's really
Like
good. I think I got,
8 more to go.
yeah, but I mean, when I did it, I got through like 3, I think.
Wow. What exactly were you saying?
I think I got
That's
caught up
wild.
on something that was like personal, like it struck an emotional chord and I was like, okay, I need to take my time with this one. But you did really well, really, really well.
Good, 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 good.
Kaboom has joined us. I'm just going to message back to say hello, Kaboom. Good. And we've got 5 viewers in here so far. And I'll also take a second to point out my beautiful wooden sign, handcrafted with my new logo, thanks to the Orange
Awesome.
Manufacturing Group. Yeah, I suck at graphic design and branding and stuff. And I had a few things that mock-ups that I did on Canva, and I sent it to the Orange Manufacturing Group, and he was like,
Mhm.
I'm going to be brutally honest with you. But it wasn't negative. It was really like, this doesn't work for this reason and this reason and this reason, and you have to consider this. And I had known beforehand that I wasn't strong at graphic design. I didn't study it, but it was just solidified in that moment. So he walked me through all the steps. And so he shipped the sign to me, I think it was the end of last week. And I feel so proud of it because, yeah, it went from
Wait,
nothing to
there's a
something.
21 in there, right? I can see like a
Yeah.
20. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
Ask a Bitcoiner 21 questions.
21 questions. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good
Thank
job.
you. See? OMG. Okay. So next question. Oh, yes, this is what I want to know this. What determines your expansion strategy to new countries? Because you're not just in Kenya.
Yeah, so far we are in 11 different countries. We did start with Kenya in a small community. So what determines our expansion is the proactiveness, the activeness, the engagements of students who actually join Bitcoin Data from other countries. Once we see we have like a solid group of leaders, we then train them to be leaders in their own countries and to actually use Bitcoin depending on how they want to use Bitcoin. Bitcoin has an array of usability, cases. So activeness, engagement is very important for us, and the ability to actually learn from us and to, continue with our vision and mission in their own country. So we just don't stumble on any African country and we say, okay, let's go to Uganda, let's to go to Tanzania. We have to see some sense of, we want to change our narrative. We want to change our economy. We want to change how our community interacts with money. And then from there, we offer the mentorship of how they can do that based on their own challenges that they face as a country.
Yeah. I think that the permissionless nature of Bitcoin and how accessible it can be to
Mhm.
anyone, anywhere is underrated. And when I hear you, I'm reminded of that.
Mhm.
So which innovations excite you the most at the intersection of Bitcoin and AI?
So say AI tools can be definitely used to enhance user experience, especially when it comes to wallet management or even personalized financial advice. In that we can get data that will help us build probably wallets or platforms that will help us send and receive value in a more seamless manner, and that is specialized to a specific type of people. Because right now what we have
Yeah.
is just, I see a problem, I create the solution. I don't really care what if it actually aligns with these people or not. But because I'm a developer, that is what I'm going to do, right? So I feel AI, with collection of data, we can actually streamline and specialize certain tools that can be used to enhance financial inclusion and just bring more people on the Bitcoin standard.
Yeah. 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 Responding to customer needs as opposed to what you as a developer want to
Exactly.
push out there. That
Exactly.
balance is very difficult to find because it also entails a lot of testing
Exactly.
on the ground. Yeah. So
Mhm.
this is the surprise question from Sabina because I reached out to her.
Okay. Okay.
And so she proposes as the following. How do you think your journey with Bitcoin has impacted your leadership style and how it inspires others, especially women?
I think understanding that we all come from different backgrounds, we face different challenges, has helped me understand people from different perspectives, right? So it's not just
Yeah.
about me imposing my own ideologies on people, but really understanding how can they use Bitcoin, how can they help them, meeting them at their point of need. A lot of leaders they sort of fight in understanding how they can help people, and we end up creating communities which are more of dictatorship rather than
Yeah.
inclusiveness, in terms of, do they contribute their ideas? Are you open to listening to them? Are you opening to growing with these people, right? So I think that has really changed me and changed how I actually lead my people.
Yeah. I think more leaders, world leaders, should study Bitcoin to
Yeah.
shift their perspective. Because the other thing too
Yeah.
is that because it's not controlled by one centralized entity or individual, it's quite humbling because you realize that, you are not the be all and end all. So that sense of
Exactly.
inclusion is emphasized even more.
Exactly, exactly.
So, in an interview, you mentioned that you're an introvert, which I relate to. But you deal with people, a lot of people. So, how do you manage? How do you like come out of your shell?
So I would have to admit, the first few cohorts were hard. My first few events were hard. But then I got to learn that my mission is bigger than who I am and my personality. And if I wanted to achieve what I want to achieve, then I would have to come out of my comfort zone. So I have learned to actually focus on my mission. I prepare well for the events that I get to speak to, because it's about, getting the stories of the African females or the people that I represent out there. It's not about me, it's about everybody that's involved. However, I do also understand that I need my solitude time to recharge, and I do that. And I'm also blessed to have a team that understands. Marcel is at that point where she can no longer, be around people. She needs time to recharge so that, because of my social batteries normally just go down, right? So
Yeah.
that has really helped me get off my comfort zone and just focus on, okay, so this is my mission and this is my personal time, and I can recharge and just be me.
Yeah. Yeah. During my recharge time or my downtime, sometimes I literally do nothing. It's like,
It's very important. It's very
yeah.
important. Yeah.
What's your favorite type of music?
So, unlike many people, I don't think I have a favorite type of music. So, my taste in music definitely changes with the experience, my mood as well, and the energy that is around me, and what a particular type of music or a type of song speaks to me. So, I'll give you an example. Like currently, I just stumbled upon this guy called Carpetman. I don't know if he's British or Canadian, not sure, but his songs speak to me in terms of my mental health, um, us as humans, how we, forget to live in the moment, and we're just trashing, making the paper, let's make the paper and then eventually die, blah, blah, blah. So right now I'm just, I'm in love with this artist that speaks to my soul, right? And probably next month you'll ask me and I'll be like, oh, I'm into Afrobeats and I love yeah. Yeah, because it will be December, and the ABC is happening in Kenya. So I'll probably change to, oh my God, I love Burna Boy. I'm no longer interested in,
Yeah.
in the carpet man. Yeah, yeah. So it changes from time to time. I don't have like a specific genre. Yeah.
Yep. I also relate to that. So Tales from the Shitcoin Casino. How did you realize that it's just Bitcoin?
Um, First thing first, after losing money, right? That's the
Ah,
first
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that
yeah.
got me to to that. Like, wait a minute. What exactly am I doing? Right? There has to be something wrong with this space. So I did, at the back of my mind, I did understand that there has to be some truth in the Bitcoin space or in the crypto space. So I just had to figure out what exactly it was. So with my, educating myself with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, I realized that Bitcoin is the only true decentralized asset. And
Yeah.
that was it when it hit me that if I'm looking for security, if I'm looking for long-term financial freedom, then I need something that's completely decentralized, something that I don't have to worry that, our
Yeah.
president or the central bank of, Kenya can wake up and decide we're closing this shit, right? So that's when I realized, okay, it's definitely Bitcoin for me. And the fact that Bitcoin, like you said, it's completely permissionless. And knowing the story of my sisters, for me, this is the only tool that we can use to better our lives and the lives of the
Hmm.
community, the people around us. Um, I don't, I don't want to go into details on how we have been, undermined when it comes to, or excluded when it comes to financial decision making. But
Yeah.
Bitcoin for us is actually a tool that gives us a seat at the financial table without necessarily fighting the men, right? It's just
Yeah.
inclusivity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is someone in one of my Telegram groups was talking about taking profits or selling a bit of Bitcoin now because the price is really high and then buying again when the price goes down and stuff. And I just replied, like, I understand that's his thing. I've come to be
Yeah.
more accepting and less judgmental of people and how they
Very
manage.
important.
But yeah, but I'm like, I'm risk averse. And the word security that you mentioned is something that resonates with me. Like, I'm at a stage in my life
Mhm.
where I think about not just my future, but my child's future. And so it's like, just save as much as you
Exactly.
can. Boating accidents do
Exactly.
happen. So that's something we can't
I
control. But, outside of a boating accident, just save and that's it.
Yeah, for sure. But then, okay, if you
Go
look
ahead.
at
No,
it
no, no.
from an African, yeah, from an African perspective, for us, it's just not about saving, because we
Hmm.
do have, one of the worst or fragmented banking systems. Just moving value across borders is a huge, huge headache, right? So
Yep.
for us, Bitcoin represents, it opens borders for us. I can be able to send money to someone in Nigeria, to South Africa, without necessarily having to go through all that process of finding a Western Union or whatever, them having to wait 3 or 4 days, the expenses that come with it, the uncertainty that if you're going to receive that money, the bureaucracy as well, being asked why is this person sending you money, it's just,
Hmm.
it's just tiresome. So Bitcoin for us, other than saving, we actually use it to move value across, which opens the borders. And definitely, if we get to a point of hyper Bitcoinization, Africa can be on the same level of other continents. Hoping,
Yep.
hopefully.
So Kaboom added to the chat, yep, it's not about selling to fiat and take a profit, but saving and spending to buy some goods with BTC. And I'm so glad
Mhm.
that you mentioned the issue of transferring value across borders. That's not something that I wanted to project upon you, but I think that in the West, well, I'm going to say this with a grain of salt. We do take for granted our ability to transact with other countries. And that being said, between Canada and Switzerland, there are loopholes that we have to jump through to transact. Eventually, there are approvals. I think that there's less bureaucracy involved compared to what you may experience between Kenya and Nigeria, or I mean, God forbid, Kenya and a country that uses the CFA franc. But it's pardon.
I'm like, exactly. Like it would be way harder.
Yeah, way harder. And
Way harder. Yeah. And I would give you a very good example. And this is one of the reasons why Nigeria is actually leading when it comes to, and I would say crypto adoption, is they have certain challenges. For example, I just recently, from one of my students, I just recently learned that they are not able to send money outside of the country using Western Union. Like, how crazy is that? So they can
Why?
only receive. I have no idea, but they are not allowed to send money, which is really, really, really fucked up.
That's
So
very
do
odd. And is
it
this
is
Western
it,
Union imposing that, or is it the Nigerian government that's putting a stop to that?
it's these particular platforms. So it's not just the Niger. Okay, so the Nigerian government also has some issues, but it also discrimination against Nigerians from these platforms as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about discrimination or no? Kaboom says it's like Benin, so many restrictions. When I found out about the CFA system, I was absolutely shocked. So, and the reason I found out about it is that, so I'm born and raised in Toronto, Canada. And my parents immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago, which is in the Caribbean. Canada is just a country, well, I should say Toronto is a country filled with immigration. So, I grew up with kids whose parents immigrated from the UK, from Sri Lanka, from India, from other Caribbean islands. Like, that's just the way it was. And I think when I was a teenager, I started to see more people come from the African continent, specifically East Africa. For a time, there were a lot of people from Somalia. So all of this to say that I had limited exposure to the African continent until I moved to Europe. And then I was like, whoa, like I'd heard the names of certain countries here and there, but I was finally like exposed and obviously curious because that's just my nature, wanting to learn more. And one thing that floored me is that, so when I speak French, I still have a bit of an accent. And amongst French people specifically, not Swiss French speaking people, but French people, when I would like introduce myself, how are you, or go for meetings and stuff, they would always say like, kind of in a condescending way, like, which African country are you from? And I'm like, oh, my parents
Wow.
immigrated from Trinidad. Yeah, like the classic journey, but, and then it would, how do I say this diplomatically? But the conversation would kind of flow in a condescending type of way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the subtext was always, oh, you're a poor African. And I'm like,
Mm-mm.
what are you talking about? So I had to go and dig and figure out like what's behind all of this. And then I learned about the CFA franc, about the problems with trade, about how the French National Bank approves certain transactions for commodities, for example, and how difficult it is for some of these countries like Senegal, for example, to carry out trade with countries that France doesn't approve of and what that does to the economy, hence the migration, hence the stereotypes of like Africans being poor. And when I went through the whole journey, I just thought, wow, like this is so it is just so intertwined on so many levels with so many different things that for someone who's new like me, what I feel immediately is just, I don't like to use the word racism. I just say prejudice. They prejudge me based on my appearance, and then they come with a bunch of assumptions. But luckily for me, I was able to learn from those assumptions and understand history a little bit more. And once I got like just a key understanding of what was happening, Bitcoin became that much more important and relevant for me. And I'm like, I'm going to talk to everyone about Bitcoin so that, I mean, I'm not going to change the world, but just to lightly influence the perspective of certain people.
I think, well, you can't change the world. If you change the life of one person, you essentially have changed the world, because that in turn will create a ripple effect to other people. So you don't really have to
Yeah.
necessarily focus on like a huge number of people, but just one person at a time, especially what you're doing like right now. It's creates a huge impact, and a ripple effect of information and knowledge that people are actually getting out there. And it's important to have such discussions so that even people who are born in, sometimes it's not their fault, right? They're born
Yeah,
in these
exactly.
countries,
Yeah.
they don't have that exposure. And what the media sells out there is the poor side of Africa,
Yep.
Africans are backward and all that. That's what the media shows them. So when they start listening to such conversations, they actually tend, well, for the smart ones, they would want to understand what actually happens, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to have such conversations. Um, I'll give you a scenario which is not, maybe might not be linked to this conversation, but one of the moments that I was actually shocked on how fucked up, if I may use that word,
You can use it.
when it comes to when it comes to transferring value across Africa. So I was coming from, either it was Cape Town or Ghana, right? And I had the fiat currency, and also excited. I was like, oh, I have some cash left over. I can just probably buy something for myself on my way out of the airport. So here I am. I'm like, I go to the bureau and I'm like, okay, so I have Ghana cedis. I want Kenya shilling. And the lady looked at me and she said, we don't accept Ghana cedis. I'm like, why? It's money. And she's like, well, if you want, I can give you probably $5 for it. And it was, so when I was changing it at the airport, it was worth $100. But this lady was telling me, I can take your money, but I'll give you $5. So you can decide to wait until you go back to Ghana so that you can use it for its worth, or I give you $5. And I was like, wait, what? But this is an
Wow.
African currency. Like, it doesn't make sense. Literally doesn't make sense. So that's how fucked up, and that's how much we need Bitcoin as Africans.
Yeah. Yep. When um when when there is a discussion about like the global south or race, because I know a few people who talk about the injustice and the disparities and the inequalities and stuff. And I say, think about Bitcoin, think of the monetary system and how if we can open trade borders, not from like a foreign policy perspective, but just individuals, if they can start trading freely without experiencing like currency friction, how can that change things slowly but surely? Because it's not just about money, it's communication as well. We communicate so much with the money we spend, with whom we choose to spend the money. Like it's so much deeper than, just the paper note that you may see.
Exactly, exactly. Totally agree.
Yep. So moving on, we went off just a little bit, but I like that. How many cohorts have graduated so far?
So proudly, we have graduated 7 cohorts, which includes about 500 plus women. And then now, I don't know if you know this,
500.
but plus, yes,
Oh, 500 plus.
plus, yes.
Wow.
Take notes, yeah.
Good for you.
Um, Yeah, so like I said, we started small, but with every cohort, there has been some interest. And the good thing about women is we love communities. Women love spaces that they can thrive on. And for Bitcoin
Yeah.
Data, we don't necessarily sell the victim mentality. We
Thank
understand
you.
that there has been some injustices that have been done to us, and they still continue happening. And it's just not just for African females. There are other women who actually have it way worse than African female. So what we sell or what we try to inspire is actually the solution oriented mentality. So yes, we're going through this. What are the solutions? What can we do to better our communities and to actually change this for the next generation? So yeah, so we've had 7 cohorts, 500 plus students, and we just recently introduced Dada Developers Club, which essentially what we're trying to do is to, educate and provide knowledge to already existing African female developers for them to be able to build also into the Bitcoin ecosystem or just contribute into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Because one thing I find ironic is if you look at the African continent, the majority of the small transactions that happen, happens between women. They're paying the
Yeah.
fees, they're shopping, they're paying, bills and all that. So if we want to get to a level where we can say our economies have changed or our communities have actually improved, then we need to have everybody onboarded. It's not just a male or one-sided thing. We need everybody onboarded. And I normally
Yeah.
believe, and I stand by the quote that says, if you educate a female, you're essentially educating an entire community. So, which in turn relates to if you empower a female, you're essentially empowering the entire community because women are not selfish. Women like to share. I have students who actually now run classes, not specifically for women, but for every gender that's out there, right? So it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the last question. Oh, well, and I mean, you've touched upon it, but I'll still ask it because it's listed.
Okay.
It is, why is Bitcoin important to African women?
Well, so I feel like if you don't stop me, I can go on and on about this question. So the reason why it's important to African females is it offers the opportunity to be financially free, financially independent, of which the traditional financial markets do not offer to the African female. It provides an avenue for them to actually earn, invest, save, and build wealth. And if you look at, how things have been, the traditions, the culture, they've always excluded the African female. So Bitcoin for us is very important. Again, and I said this, it provides us a seat at the financial table where we can actually make decisions and help build our communities. So it's not about discriminating or feeling like you're better than men. It's just being part
Yeah.
of it and saying, with our help, we can be way farther than you just doing it by yourself, right? Because we want more resources, we want more income to actually better our economies. Yeah.
So financial freedom is a term that I've been hearing since I was very small. And I think that depending on where you live, where you grew up, it could mean the way it's operationalized could be different depending on who you are. So can you give more detail on what financial freedom looks like to the African women you work with? Compared to the traditional fiat system? Like, is it with respect to bank accounts, or can you open a bank account, or transactions?
I believe it's all that, includes
Yeah.
all that, because the majority of African females, the ones who are in the urban cities like myself, it's easy for you to get a bank account. But the ones who are not in the urban cities, who probably don't have an education, they don't have papers, it becomes a challenge to
Yeah.
actually open bank accounts. And then it goes ahead in terms of, can they find opportunities without that, without the papers, without education as well, right? It also goes down to can they actually own wealth? Because that's one of the biggest challenges that we have as African females, property rights. As an African
Yeah.
female, you don't have the right to actually own property, especially inherited property, right? And for the majority of Africans, don't see this as a problem until we continue seeing the cycles of poverty over and over. Why? Because we are
Yeah.
dependent on an already struggling gender, right? So financial freedom for us means being able to participate, being able to earn, being able to own your own wealth, being able to pass on the wealth that you have accumulated to the next generation, right? Without any barriers whatsoever. So whether it's a huge amount of wealth or just small, at the end of the day, you just want to
Yeah.
pass it on to the next person. It also means getting equal opportunities, or not even just necessarily equal opportunities, opportunities that you want as a female, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also being able to, have some form of asset under your name that you can proudly say that I have these and I started building this with as little as $1, without anybody raising their eyebrow and saying, why do you have so much wealth and you're a female? Without being a target to anyone, because you have control over your assets, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that. And I mean, of course, and this comes with the training that you provide, you have to look after, you know, yeah, you have to look after your stack with self custody. But if you do that, no one can take that away from you. And that is like, I mean, it's revolutionary. It seems so simple and basic, but I think the shift in your mindset that happens when you realize that you can build something and actually protect it. Someone, I mean, you can have social attacks where, a gentleman may come in and try to like sweet you up so that they can take your keys, but when you have to work to understand it, to save in it, and then to protect it, I think you become a little bit more aware. And so you start to guard yourself appropriately and your instincts develop so that no one can take it away from you.
Exactly. And think about the possibility of just creating your wealth. So let me give you an example. For you to be able to own property or land or real estate will require you to have some certain amount of money, like at a go, probably 10K for you to have maybe a small plot of land somewhere. But then with Bitcoin, it's different. You can start building your wealth from as low as $1. Right? And you can accumulate that bit by bit without necessarily feeling the pressure of when am I going to get to 10K so that I can buy this piece of land or this house or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Most
like you said,
definitely.
it's really, yeah, it's definitely revolutionary for us and for everybody who understands the true meaning of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Well, our time is up. We've gotten through all 21 questions. It was a pleasure. To me, it went by very quickly. And I don't want to waste too much of your time, but if you come back, there will be a lot of, I guess, follow-up questions that I'll have and a different type of discussion because I admire what you're doing so much. And I think that, the more people see Bitcoin Data, I think the better it will be for everyone globally.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And maybe if I can just add in this in there is that we are having the African Bitcoin Conference. So to the listeners out there, if you're ever interested in learning about, how Africa uses Bitcoin and the usability cases that we have here, please grab yourself a ticket, and there's a 20% discount offer if you pay in Bitcoin. So it's a huge deal, and you also get the chance to meet the dadas as well.
And what are the dates?
So from the 9th, oh yeah, so from the 9th of December to the 11th of December.
And that's in Kenya, right?
Yeah,
In
Kenya,
Nairobi?
Nairobi,
Yeah.
JW Marriott. Yeah, so JW Marriott. If you go on Twitter, their handle is Africa Bitcoin Conference. Basically, just that African Bitcoin Conference. Their website is africabitcoin.org. Yeah, .org, something like that. Yeah.
I'll include that in the show notes. And where can people find you and where can people find Bitcoin Data?
Okay, so my personal account is on Twitter is Marcel Lorraine, and then our Twitter handle for Bitcoin Dada is at BTC_Dada, BTC_Dada. And that goes across all other platforms. So we are also on Nostr, not as active as I want us to be, but you're on Nostr as well. So you're on LinkedIn, we're on TikTok, for those who are on TikTok as well, and Instagram as well. So just BTC Dada. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you again. And I will ask you to stay on just a few minutes to ensure that the entire stream uploads for editing later.
Okay, sure, no problem.
And I will do just a quick refresh of Zapstream. And yes. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to cut this stream in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye.